There's a difference between being a person of vision and a person who is ambitious. An ambitious person wants something because they're insecure or wants something out of lust or greed or covetousness. Okay? A person of vision says, I see the high calling of God. This is why I'm put on this earth. This is something I must do. Hey everybody, welcome to today's Conversation Podcast. I am so excited about today because we have a very, very special guest on today, but I will get to that in just a moment. I just want to thank every single one of you for the way you have faithfully followed us. And if you haven't done so, would you please rate, review, and even subscribe to the show? That way it actually helps get the message out that much further. And Lisa and I are just so honored to be able to speak into your life what God has entrusted to us. I also want to say that if you do write a review, you might get it read on the air, which I am about to do. And today is coming from W.B. Murphy. And W.B. Murphy says, and I didn't wear my reading glasses, and I'm going to do my best. I am so very thankful for the podcast. I listen to it at work. And being a new Christian, it has helped me answer a lot of questions that I have. There's a lot of great wisdom in every podcast. Keep up the great work. Thank both of you for all the work that is put into making these podcasts. Thank you so very much. And I'm so delighted that you are now a believer. Now, today, Lisa Bevere is not joining me. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you Chris Pace.
Hey, guys.
Chris, it's so good to have you. I want to say this. I've known Chris since 2004. Yeah. And that's where we met down in Australia. He actually worked for Messenger International Australia's office, and you started in the warehouse.
Yes.
And you had just gotten saved a few years earlier.
Yeah, just a couple years earlier. Yeah.
Yep. And some friend of yours said they had a cassette. Was it back in the day?
So interesting story. We were driving to the beach. You had just spoken at the 6 Summer Nights at Hillsong Church in Sydney. I wasn't there. My friend was. And it was a beautiful summer day. And we're driving to the beach. And he's like, guys, you got to hear this dude, John Bevere. He just spoke at Hillsong. And I was like, all right, I'm sitting in the back seat. And he puts in Drawing Near CD. Yeah. And I'm in the back listening to John preach. And I'm in tears. And by the end of it, I heard the Holy Spirit say to me, you're going to know John and you're going to work for him. I had no idea what you looked like. I didn't know who you were. Yeah. And then I looked you up online at the old website, johnbevere.org, I think it was. And I was like, man, this guy's handsome, dude. You had that black muscle shirt on. You had bare feet with your denim jeans, beautiful wife, good looking kids. And I was just like, wow, totally blew my mind of stereotype of American preachers. So,
well, Lisa and I try to be as normal as possible because, I don't think when you go in the ministry, all of a sudden you start changing what you wear and everything else. I think it's all about the heart. Yeah. The heart's got to be sanctified, completely dedicated to Jesus, love people, want to glorify God in every decision, obedience to God. And that's what draws me to you, Chris. I've watched a man of God. I'm sitting next to a man of God who's walked in holiness and godliness.
Thank you, John.
A man who ministers to our team every single Monday morning when we have prayer. For those of you who don't know, we have prayer. Our whole staff prays every single day at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. And Chris always leads prayer on Monday. Well, Chris, you worked in the warehouse and somehow you got over here to the United States. That's another long story that people find out about later. But you ended up coming to the United States when? In
2014, August 2014.
2014. And was it immediately that you came to work for us at Messenger?
Yeah, it was basically January 2015. Because I was able to legally work. I had to wait for my green card. And
I know that we had a little bit of a gap, but from the time you left down in Australia and the time you started working, so 2015. Yeah. So you've been now in the States, so we've known each other now for 20 years.
20 years.
You started working for Messenger Australia 20 years ago. It's crazy. Yes, it's crazy.
Think about that word I heard. You're going to know John and you're going to work for him.
That's just amazing.
And
I had
to
a very
fast
similar
forward-
experience that I've not shared with you, and I
Okay.
should,
Yeah,
with
okay.
another man of God.
Yeah, wow.
So someday I should
Okay,
share
yeah,
that with you.
should. Yeah. I know nearly all the stories. So.
So now it's been almost a decade here in America. And what I am so excited about is Messenger International. Lisa and I have such a heart to raise up leaders, to see the call of God on a person's life and help develop that call and get them into that place. And so Chris, in the month of January 2024, we are publishing Messenger International, the very first book by someone doesn't have Bevere as a last name. Now that's very exciting to me. Very, very exciting, because I believe this is going to be the first of many. But anyway, because Chris has really walked so close with God, so obediently to God, and I know you wanted this book probably to come out about 6 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. That's, yeah.
Yeah.
I had to get it in me first, living it out many years.
But you went through some of the pain sometimes that a man of God or a woman of God has to go through in order to have the character developed to be able to handle the message when it comes out. I mean, one of the prayers I prayed when I was a young man, Chris, is I said, God, please never let the gift or the ministry that you entrust me to never let it out be greater than the character that you've developed in me. And I've watched that with you, and I'm so, so proud of you.
Thank you,
and but this book is called Level Up.
Level Up.
And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's available, right? Everybody can get it now.
January 16 will be at chrispace.org. You can go to the Messenger International store as well, but the link will be available on chrispace.org. So January 16.
Okay, now after you hear about it, you're definitely going to want to get it. So let's open it up. All right. I think we need to talk about the word potential to open this. So take it away.
Well, one of the things I'm very passionate about is helping people discover their purpose, ignite their passion, and realize their potential. And I genuinely believe one of the greatest tragedies in life is unfulfilled potential, all that could have been but wasn't. Now, when you think about it, it's quite sobering. Now, if you were to die today, what would die with you? What dreams will never be fulfilled? What talents would remain buried forever? What legacy will never be left behind? Now, sit with that for a moment, okay? That's why it's not enough to be full of potential unless it's being realized. And one of the big points of Level Up is if you don't fight for your future, you will forfeit it. And I immediately think of the children of Israel. We were talking about this recently. God, with a mighty hand, delivered them out of Egypt. Miracles, signs, wonders, defeated the Egyptian army. And yet that whole first generation, the Exodus, were destined to inherit the promised land, but didn't. Okay? They tried to later on, but it was too late. Their window of opportunity closed. And that story haunts me, John. Okay? Because that goes to show that the future isn't automatic. Your destiny isn't automatic. You need to be intentional about stepping into the future. That's why the Lord said to Joshua, every step that the sole of your foot will tread upon, I have given you. Right. In other words, it's there. It's there for the taking. But you need to go in and possess it, because tomorrow will come regardless of what we do. But the future will come because of what we do. Now think about it. Think about good. Like 20 years ago, John, like I wouldn't be sitting here today unless you had obeyed God's calling on your life. Think about it. Imagine you didn't obey what God called you to do as a minister of the gospel. And I'm sure you had opportunity to derail.
I've never thought of that before.
I wouldn't be here. Sure. Our team wouldn't be here. So many lives wouldn't be blessed because of your obedience. So there's other people waiting on the other side of your obedience.
There were two women that said to me, if you don't write what God's giving you to write, this was in 1991.
Perfect example.
He'll give the message to somebody else, and one day you'll stand in judgment for it. Well, if I wouldn't have written what God had given me to write, you and I wouldn't have met in 2004.
Right.
Because that's how I got to Australia, was through the books. That's how I've gotten to most of the nations of the world, is through books. And so, yes, you're so right about this. But, I think about what Paul said to Timothy, and I'm sure that you've got this in the book. But you said you got to fight for your destiny, right?
Yeah.
Well, think about Paul's words. He said, the prophecies that have been spoken over you, by them wage a good warfare. Fight, Timothy, for what God has spoken over your life.
Why did he say fight?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm affirming what you said, that you've got to fight for your destiny.
Yeah. See, at one point or another, we've all heard the words spoken over us. You're full of potential.
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe it was from a parent, a teacher, a coach, a friend. When you think about it, it's one of the most encouraging things to hear. okay? But it's also one of the most discouraging things to hear, depending on when or how you hear it, okay? Because on the one hand, it's a statement packed with promise, pointing to all you can be and have not yet become, all you can do and have not yet done it. It points to future possibility. It hints to what you could be. But on the other hand, it's indication that you're not meeting expectations, okay?
You're falling short.
Yeah, you're underdeveloped, you're underperforming, okay?
Yeah.
And what began as a compliment can easily become a painful critique, an ever-present reminder that we're not where we could be or where we should be, you know? And it's in these moments, again, that we must accept the fact that it's not enough to be full of potential unless it's being realized. And that's what I'm passionate about, because realizing your potential is a process of becoming that's accomplished on levels. And I want to get into that.
You're saying, level up, and you're talking about potential. So talk about levels for a minute.
Yeah. No, thank you, John. Like Proverbs, key scripture, Proverbs 15 verse 24 says, the path of life leads upward for the wise. Now, I'll pause there. Who are the wise?
And I'm thinking of glory to glory.
Yeah, no, we'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
I don't want to get ahead.
Well, the wise are those who fear God and follow him wholeheartedly. Because I refer to that first generation of Israel who came out of Egypt. I think of Caleb and Joshua. God said to them, they have a different spirit. It's going to be a different story with them. Why? Because they follow me wholeheartedly, okay? So the path of life leads upward for the wise. They leave the grave behind, and we'll get to that as well. So the path of life leads upward. Life is designed to have an upward trajectory, a path that leads us forward from strength to strength, from glory to glory. And another way we could say is life is lived on levels, okay? Now, when I think of the concept of levels, I think of progression, like we see in physical growth as we progress from childhood to adolescence to adulthood.
Yeah.
We see levels in
school,
in education, where we,
first grade, second grade, third grade,
elementary
right?
level,
Yep.
Middle school level here. I've got to get the school system here in America, right?
Middle school,
high school, college level. Okay, we see levels in our athletic system as, we progress from the local level, the state level, the national level. We see levels in leadership. We see levels in government. We see levels in the business realm. Homes are built on levels. Video games are played on levels. This is just a short list. I mean, everywhere you look, life is lived on levels. So it comes to as no surprise that realizing your potential and fulfilling your calling are also done so on levels. And I'll show you Philippians chapter 3.
Yep.
Verses 12 to 14 says, Paul says, not that I have attained or am already perfected, but I press on, that I may lay hold of that for which Christ Jesus has laid hold of me. Brethren, I do not consider myself to have attained, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. Listen to this. I press toward the goal for the prize. What's the prize? The upward call of God in
but what's
Christ
interesting
Jesus.
is when he says forgetting those things which are behind, in that chapter, he talks about his accomplishments that he had before he knew Christ, but then he starts talking about his accomplishments in Christ. And I believe what keeps you from going to the next level is you get stuck at a level of success that you're content with, instead of saying, wait a minute, there's another level to go. And I find I've had very wealthy businessmen come up to me and share with me after I share on multiplication, saying, John, I've plateaued because I've done so well. And that's the thing.
That's sad.
Paul, I believe, is saying, I got to let go of what I've already accomplished,
so glad you
or else I'm going to
out.
camp there.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah, well,
I don't mean to
No,
interrupt
this
you,
is
but
great.
I'm looking at that.
John, thank you. Because see, what happens with these type of people is they value the destination over the journey.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
So if you value the journey, you'll be committed to the journey of growth, no matter what destination you're at. Okay. But when you value the destination over the journey, when you reach the destination that you're fixated on, okay, you'll have the temptation to camp there. You feel like you've arrived at your destination, okay? But if we stay committed to the upward path, we'll stay hungry until we've laid hold of all that God has destined for us, because we don't want to go to the grave empty, all right? And this was Paul's focus, okay? His passion and focus was the upward call.
I think it's on two levels, and I think both levels need to be mentioned. If you look at what Paul said, he said, I have count everything loss so that I might know him, the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his sufferings.
Yeah.
So there's the high call he's talking about right there.
Yeah.
All right. Now, involved in that is, I believe, our destinies, our callings, as far as what we accomplish in this life.
really
Because
good,
Jesus said, I finished the work you gave me to do. But you're never really, truly going to accomplish that work the way you were intended unless you know him the way he knew the Father.
Yes.
And so
It's in his presence.
I do believe, yes. Like, okay, let's just do an example. Let's say you've got a young man and God has put in his heart, you're going to be president of the United States one day. Yeah, that's very valid. And he's going to go through levels, isn't he? He's going to be, on the city council, then he's going to become a junior senator, a senator, whatever, and one day he becomes president.
Yeah.
There's levels, okay? He's got to keep, he's in love with the destiny, as you said, not the journey, right? So I believe that, but for him to handle that presidency the way God intended him, he's got to press for the number one thing, and that is to know Jesus intimately.
Yeah, and I get, there's 2 chapters on actually.
Oh, I know.
Because the upward journey begins with knowing
guess
him.
What? You just gave me this book last week, but I'm already going there. It's good. It's good.
No, thank you that you said that, John. And like going back to the whole destination mentality, it's important to value the journey over the destination, but we should celebrate hitting certain milestones, hitting certain destinations. Just don't camp there. Okay, because look what Paul says in Philippians chapter 3, verses 15 to 16, and I'm reading out of the Passion here. It says, let all who are mature have this same passion. And if anyone is not yet gripped by these desires, you could tell Paul was gripped with the desire to pursue the upward call, which includes getting to know Jesus, okay, getting to know him.
Yeah.
God will reveal it to them. And verse 16, let us advance together. Love that. To reach his victory prize, the upward call that is.
So that
following
means,
one path one
you got to
passion.
have connection. You got to have relationship.
Absolutely.
Advance together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Together as a corporate body of Christ, and also together with the Lord, because he's the one who's going to lead you there. It's uncharted territory for you.
So I'm going to do another little rabbit trail. That's my job on this one, okay? You're the main guy here, but
No.
I love this. But if you look at my body is never going to fulfill what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Let's say I have the goal, I'm supposed to go to Singapore, right? My whole body has to go there. My hand can't say, I'm going to Singapore. But what's really important is the fact that my fingers are connected. My hand is connected to my arm. My hand's not connected to my knee. So the right connections are what's really important for me to fulfill my destiny.
Yeah.
Okay? So even though my hand and my knee are in one body and we should be of one accord, we should all be, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean I'm attached. And I think sometimes that's a very important thing for people to understand. There are attachments that God brings into your life, and there's associations.
Yeah, associations.
There's alignments. I like alignments better.
No, so well,
there's
I've got a whole
attachments and
chapter on
alignments.
associations.
Oh, you're kidding me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should have read the
Hey,
whole book
I'm just
before we
thankful
did
you're
this.
reading it, John.
Okay.
But no, go on. That was powerful. The alignments.
So when you're in the right attachment, alignment speaks to me of unity. Yeah. We in the church, I'm telling you, it was Jesus's burden. He said that they might be one, that we are one, so that they can experience the glory that you've given me.
Yeah.
Why is the glory of God in the church? It's because we're not aligned. We're not one heart, one mind, one accord, as the Bible commands us, right? But I look at the attachments. The attachments are so
Well,
crucial.
think about what happened with that first generation of Israel that came out of Egypt. They weren't properly aligned with God and with each other.
Yeah.
Look how their disobedience affected Caleb and Joshua. Caleb and Joshua eventually went into the promised land.
But they had 40-year detour,
But there
not
was
because
a
of them.
delay there, okay, because of their disobedience, the rest of the people's disobedience. So they had to wait till a whole generation passed away and a whole new generation arose before they entered to their promise. So again, our decisions determine our destiny. Our, how we steward today shapes how we enter into tomorrow. And we'll get more into this, but there's an upward call and beckoning for all of us. It's calling us higher. It's inviting us to reach new levels of potential, new levels of calling. But I love that what it said in Proverbs 15:24, that the path of life leads upward for the wise. They leave the grave behind.
So talk to me about the grave.
The grave represents a place of confinement, a place of death, okay? Buried dreams, unfulfilled potential.
Wow.
Unrealized potential, unfulfilled dreams, okay? Think about it. We were talking about Miles Monroe earlier. His quote of like, the richest places on earth aren't the oil fields in the Middle East. It's the graveyards. There you'll find the songs that were never released, the books that were never written, the ideas that never knew the light of day, music that was never produced. I can go on, okay? Imagine a world without the deposit of your heroes in the faith, those who greatly impacted you. Even imagine a world without the deposit of Steve Jobs. Okay. Yeah. Like I think about a world without your deposit. It makes me cringe of where would I be today without your impact, your influence on my life? We definitely wouldn't be doing this podcast.
To God be all the glory.
Correct.
So God does it all, but what he needs for us to do is be obedient and fight for it. I love that.
Henry David Thoreau said in his book, Walden, most men lead lives of quiet desperation and go to the grave with the songs to win them. Now, let's focus on those quiet desperation. Okay, that's the condition of a lot of people in this world. They lack purpose, they lack passion, they lack power in their life. They're existing, but they're not living. They haven't come alive on the inside. But when you tap into your purpose, you start to awaken to what the potential possibilities of what your life could be. Okay, that's where you start to really come alive. What the world needs is men and women who have come alive.
You know what's interesting? Can I ask you something? And this is where a lot of people, to bring the fullness to this message, I don't want to say even the balance. Did you feel alive when you were working in the warehouse 20 years ago?
I had so much going on inside of me.
I know you did. I mean, when you would text me, I would be so excited. So, in other words, it wasn't you doing your own thing at that time.
This is good you bringing this up.
You were part of a team. Now, I think about what Jesus...
I was part of something bigger than me.
Bigger than you, and you were a part of a team. I think of what Jesus said, if you're not faithful in that which is another man's, who will give you that which is your own?
So good.
So in other words, we want to make sure that you understand that your dreams and what you're called to do in that time period can be being fulfilled even though you're not completely on your own. Right. Although there may be a time that God does say, go completely on your own. The whole thing is that we're obedient to God and we are not ambitious.
Yes.
There's a difference between being a person of vision and a person who is ambitious. An ambitious person wants something because they're insecure or wants something out of lust or greed or covetousness. Okay? A person of vision says, I see the high calling of God. This is why I'm put on this earth. This is something I must do.
And I believe God deals with that, though, because I've wrestled with selfish ambition before. I mean, you've kept me in check in the past, too. I mean, just because you have a call on your life, and that's a temptation with many young adults these days. Like, oh, I'm called to God. I need to go and conquer and take land. And where they don't realize you need to be planted where God has you. And that can be in many different places, but that could be the right place, being with the right people. I was planted at Messenger in Sydney, Australia, back in the 2000s. We had this little garage of a warehouse back then in Glenhaven. Right?
I remember that. Now, but let's encourage again. Think of David if he went to take back from Amalek what they had stolen. Remember when David went? So 400 warriors went with him. Let's say if those 400 warriors were all trying to do their own thing apart from each other. Hey, I want to be a new David, right? David and any one of them would not have been able to take back what Amalek.
Yeah.
So they take it back. They destroy Amalek. God's on that unity, that oneness that they have. They come back and 200 guys couldn't make it, and they guarded the equipment. And the 400 said, hey, we went to the battle. We get the reward.
Right.
And David said, oh, no way.
Yeah.
The guys that stayed back get rewarded equal with those that went.
I love that.
And I look at that as I've told our team members at Messenger for years and years and years. One day when Jesus says, I want to thank you for what you've done, which to me is mind-blowing, because how could we ever do anything without him or his grace, right? But when he says, I want to thank you and I want to reward you, I don't believe it's just going to be John and Lisa. I think it's going to be our entire Messenger team, the 45 of us in the United States, the 1,000 of us all overseas. Yeah. It's going to be all the partners that have prayed for us, that have given to, because they caught that vision.
Yeah, so good.
They caught that vision of leveling up.
Yeah.
And one of the ways we can level up is when God tells us to join yourself to someone like a David. Yeah. All those men were disgruntled.
Their lives were blessed because of him.
Right. They were disgruntled. They were in debt. They were confused. And they all went out to him in the desert because God brought them out there. Yeah. And they became some of the greatest men of renown. And so it's so
That's
important.
That's why Jonathan wanted to side with David, even though the throne was his. He saw the hand of God on
David. Yes,
and that's why I feel so indebted to you and Lisa, because my life. I know I say that reverently, but
we are more excited about what's happening with you.
And I know that's what makes you guys such great leaders. But I feel that what you're saying, because my life again would look drastically different without your and Lisa's impact and influence on my life.
And my life would look drastically different if it wasn't for the men of God who believed in us and obeyed God and took us in when we were green as green could be.
Yeah.
Because you were first generation Christian. We were first generation Christian. I look at my 2 pastors I served in those first 7 years. I'm like, oh my gosh, they were so gracious to me, because I was about as green as they come, and I did some stupid things, right?
I can say the same.
And one really let me have it every time I did something stupid. The other one didn't. And the other, and it was harder. It was harder on the one who didn't tell me when I did wrong.
Interesting.
Because I never knew where I stood with him.
See, that's interesting.
And then all of a sudden it would blow up, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, what just happened?
I always know where I stand with you guys.
We try to do
Which
that.
is good.
Because I've been under both
trust.
styles of leadership. And I want people to know where you stand with me, because I don't want to walk into the room and have this going on inside of me.
Yeah,
right? I don't want to have something violating my inside, because I think of something that Jesus said to Nathanael that I love. There is an Israelite indeed in whom there is no guile. In other words, there was no hypocrisy in him. Wow. There was no two-facedness in him. He wasn't one way, but really inside saying something else.
Wow.
And when Jesus calls that out, I think, wow, what a great, great, great gift from heaven. If we can walk in integrity and be as true on the outside as we are on the inside, or I should say as true on the inside as we are on the outside.
Yeah, I love that.
This, I believe, is part of fighting for leveling up.
Yeah, I have a whole chapter on that called Leverage Your Level.
I love it.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm helping you.
Oh,
maybe it's because we've been walking together for 20 years.
That alignment.
Yeah.
But, there's probably people asking like, okay, there's this upward path before me. I need to leave the grave behind, that place of confinement, that place of purposelessness. But where do I begin? And I believe, and you were alluding to this, I use what I call the 5A framework for activation in the book, where I use the 5A words is awakening, action, acquisition, association, and actualization. And all these combined is what activates your potential.
You got to give me the first two quickly. Give me the nutshell version.
Well, the first one is awakening.
Let's talk about that. How do you awaken?
The upward call of God begins with an awakening to your purpose and your potential. I love what it says in Proverbs 16:26. It says, life motivation comes from the deep longings of the heart, and the passion to see them fulfill urges you onward or urges you upward, okay? And I love that life motivation. It's one of the most precious things we can possess. It's what gets us up in the mornings. It's what sometimes pushes us through the hard times, okay? It's what makes us look toward the future with excitement, expectancy, all right?
Yeah.
But not everyone has this. Some people have lost that, but they've lost touch of the deep longings of their heart. And I believe you could be, psychologists refer to the locus of control, whether that's an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. In other words, are you internally motivated or externally motivated? And sadly, most people are externally motivated. In other words, they're doing things to please their parents. They're pursuing a career path or a calling because their parents want them to pursue that. Their parents are living vicariously through them, okay? Or,
How about social media?
Social expectations, or socially, we don't do that. That's not socially acceptable to pursue a calling in ministry. Like, I grew up in a religion where they thought I was in a cult when I got saved. And had I listened to them, my relatives, they didn't like that. I was like outcasted.
I remember that.
And then my parents got led to the Lord eventually, and they genuinely feared God,
They took care of our youngest son when he went to Bible school.
That's right,
down there.
Yeah. They still ask about Arden, actually. How's Arden, Chris?
He stayed in their house for 9 months.
Yeah, they loved it.
They were so good to him.
Because they had an empty nest back then, so they adopted Arden as a son.
Yeah, they did.
Mom loved making him dinner and everything.
And we are so grateful for them doing that.
But, the upward journey begins by connecting with those deep longings of our heart. And I love the word longing because I believe that those longings have been there for a long time. Again, look at what it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 11. God, makes everything beautiful in its time. So there's a time sometimes when it's not always beautiful, but there's beauty in every season. He has also planted eternity.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, a sense of divine purpose, the Amplified says, in the human heart. A mysterious longing. There's that word again. A mysterious longing which nothing under the sun can satisfy except God. When you're internally regulated, you're in touch with those deep longings of the heart, the desires of the heart, which I personally believe God put in there, okay? And unless it's been suppressed, okay, by external forces, each of us know that we're here on purpose, for a purpose. And that deep sense of purpose in our hearts, it's what's directing us, it's tugging us, those promptings are leading us along the upward path, okay? And I think about when I was a kid, I knew I'd be living in America. There was something about America that just drew me. You know, I was always drawn to American sports. I'd stay up to early hours of the morning back in the 90s.
I got to talk to you about some of the teams you like. We need to get some better teams here. No, I'm joking.
Go Niners!
He likes all the teams that always win championships. I guess you could do that when you're from Australia and you weren't born and raised in a certain city.
Sure.
You know, people in Cleveland, look, man, they're stuck with the Browns, okay? They can't be rooting for Kansas City, right? I'm joking.
I'm happy your Lions are doing good though. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but think about it.
I was drawn to America, but something even back then in my childhood knew that one day I would be living in America. I remember back in 2002 at the start, just before I was saved, I was dating a girl back then, and she was working at a retail store, and she got relocated from a place called Parramatta to the Castle Hill. Now I was unfamiliar with this Castle Hill area, okay? And I remember I'd go to Castle Hill and visit her, spend some time with her. And I remember when I left, whenever I went there to visit her, my heart came alive. And it wasn't just because I was spending time with her. I was like, there's something about this Castle Hill area that makes my heart come alive. It's doing something to me on the inside. I had no idea, but, you know, and I remember going there even when my girlfriend wasn't working there back then. And I'd be like, I just want to be here. And little did I know, in just a few years' time, I'd get connected to Messenger International. That's where our Sydney offices were. I would go to Hillsong Bible College in that area, in the Baulkham Hills area. So much of my future, we had an office from Glenhaven to the Rouse Hill area. So much of my future was in that area, but something was awakening in my spirit back then.
So, you know, we're promised. Jesus said the Holy Spirit will show you things to come.
Yes.
We're looking for a voice.
So good.
We're looking for a voice when in reality,
I love where you're going with this.
You're going, why is it I feel so good at Castle Hill? Why am I drawn to this area?
Yeah.
It's the Spirit of God. And this is, I believe this with all my heart, Chris. Delight yourself in the Lord. He'll place his desires in your heart. You know, I believe we can trust our desires of our heart when we're totally committed to the Lordship of Jesus and we delight in him.
Yes.
I don't know if I could trust my desires of my heart if I wasn't delighting in the Lord and wanting to glorify him.
That is very important.
Yeah. And so I do want to say, and I mean, man, oh man, we've gone 30 minutes here and it feels like it's been 5 minutes. This is crazy. Listen, I want to say this. Y'all, you need to get this book. As you can see, this man is loaded. He's loaded. And this is called, you know, being faithful to God for these past 20 years. Just serving. And this is what every man of God, every woman of God, when God is going to raise them up as a mouthpiece, they do. They serve faithfully. They serve. Everything in them says, I want to go out and I want to do it right now. I mean, I know. I for years I was wanting to go out and start the ministry, but it was premature. And I've watched you go through the same thing. And so he's passed a lot of tests, and God's really put something in his heart for you, I believe. So it's called Level Up. Is it available on Amazon?
Yeah, it'll be available Amazon, Messenger. Just go to chrispace.org.
Let me tell you why Amazon is so easy for these people, right?
Yeah.
I know it's better for us if they go through our store. But Amazon, most of these guys in America, they're Prime members. So it's a one click.
One click hit.
But it would be better for all of us if you went through the website, went through Messenger International or chrispace.org, right? chrispace.org.
Yeah.
And also, if you're a pastor and you're listening right now and you just say, man, I'd love to have Chris come share. Hey, Chris is available. You can contact us and reach him by contacting us.
Yeah, thank you, John.
But I just want to say that this has really been a fun conversations today.
Yeah.
If
Can I
Lisa
just
would have
add
been
one
here, it
thing
would
really
have been
quick?
even funner.
And from stories I've heard of you, just pay attention to what's happening inside of you. Pay attention to those deep longings of the heart. Philippians chapter 2, verse 13 says that it is God who works in you. Be
Both the
internally
will
regulated.
and to do his good pleasure.
To do his good pleasure. So we're waiting to hear from God externally, like you were just saying, but are you ignoring how he's speaking to you internally? Those desires, those promptings, those leadings, yield to that. Don't quench that.
Yes. That's a big factor of reaching your levels. A lot of people don't reach their levels because of fear of the unknown, fear of missing out, fear of entering into something that they can't handle. Look, if God puts it in your heart, you can handle it because he'll give you the anointing, the ability to do it. Well, this has been Conversations with John and Chris Pace. Lisa will be back with us next time. And I want to say this, if you haven't done so, I want to remind you again to please write a review, and subscribe. Most importantly, subscribe to Conversations. That way you get updates. That way you keep up with us. That way it's easier to find on your YouTube or wherever you're listening to us at. I know for me, there are certain ministries I subscribe to because I want that to pop up on my phone first. And one more thing, make sure you get Messenger X on your phone, okay? That is going to the App Store, going to Google Play, type in Messenger. Don't put a space between the R and the X. Messenger X, type it in. It is an absolute free discipleship tool that we have poured literally decades of discipleship materials in there for completely, totally no charge. We want to make sure that you are getting discipled. It's the beginning of the year. We want you to be able to go through courses or books or whatever else is on there. The short forms, we've got something on there for you to help you get your year going right. And one thing that is going to be on the Messenger X app is you're going to be able to really dive into family matters with At Home with the Bevere's podcast. And Chris, what else is on there? You can help me. You're on.
We got Addison's course, Words with God.
That's right.
Coming out.
We've got over 40 courses on Messenger X. I mean, I just got my hair cut today, and my hairstylist said my husband just went through breaking intimidation, and he is completely, his eyes have been open to so many things. I mean, hey, that's why all these things are on there. Words with God. And it's all free,
John.
It's all free.
Like, seriously, you got your 42-day videos that you did for the Awe of God book that corresponds with every chapter of the book. So dive in, guys. There's so much to choose from.
So, Chris, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you, John. It's been a pleasure,
So proud
man.
of you for writing this book. Until next time,
keep the fire burning.
Keep the flame on. Until next time, this has been Conversations with Chris Pace, this time not Lisa Bevere and John.
We hoped you enjoyed this episode of Conversations with John and Lisa Bevere. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and rate this podcast wherever you love to listen. Also, if you haven't already, go right ahead and download Messenger X to hear more content from John and Lisa Bevere and other great messengers. Again, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Conversations with John and Lisa.